Welcome back, everybody. Salty Runback coverage of the CLOL Championship, our top 6 match, where UST has just been dominating. I want to make sure that we highlight to the audience what is at stake here for University of St. Thomas if they can come home champions.
Again, we are up in the upper bracket. We're not quite up to finals, but they are on the precipice of making history. Not only would they be the only program at this moment that would have 3 title wins, but they'd be the only program that has won 3 times in a row. And especially with a different roster this time around, it would definitely cement some of the legacy of the players on this roster, specifically Porsche and Robbie Bob, as 2 of the members that were the only ones returning this entire time.
Yeah, just even more of a shout out to the college as a whole, the coaching staff, the analysts behind that they've been able to.
Nova as well.
Yeah, Nova
True.
as well. To get to this point with different iterations of the roster. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We still have a series. We did have in this top 8 weekend the only iteration of a reverse sweep, and that's the reality for Northwood if they like their spot in the upper bracket. And we did get word here from our production and tournament admins that it will be Northwood back on that blue side. I'm just hoping we don't see a B1 Talia.
Look, I'm okay with them picking B1 Talia, but Reppy has to connect to the series because so far we have just been seeing Robbie Bob on 2 separate champions now outplay Reppy. And I think one of the things that I was thinking about is that if you can't match him in lane, maybe you pick a champion that can outscale. The Aurelion Soul was going to be my look at whether or not Northwood are going to pick that up, but consistently staying with a ban with it now 2 games in a row, first side on the blue side. I think it's a little worrisome, especially since you know you're probably not going to be able to beat scaling versus UST as a whole and individually in the matchup.
What I'm looking for here as well, because I know the respect Kindred ban for Kenvi, but by banning Kindred, I thought 2 of Northwood's biggest B1s they could have gone for here would have been Kindred or Varus. So now if you're banning Kindred again, you kind of just tee up UST to take that free ban of Varus.
Yeah.
The last 2 bans they had last time around were Jinx and Varus to pinch in Thrall's pool. I don't see why St. Thomas doesn't just stick with that plan.
Exactly. It looks like the bans are going to be sticking the same, so let's see if Northwood's strategy is going to be doing any changing. In terms of members that we're kind of excited for coming out from Northwood, again, it is the fact that you do have 2 very raw new players, Reppy and Enthrall, joining a roster with a bunch of veterans. RBM, ISO, they have been in this situation before. They've made top 8 plenty of times. Clyde, a former championship winner with Maryville in the past. So there should be a lot of guiding voices for these 2 players, especially for someone like Enthrall, who we've been hyping up has been a really excellent team fighter and has been making a lot of waves recently in Tier 2, Tier 3, whether that be some of the combines we've been seeing or his individual play in the bracket stage.
Well, we are seeing that switch up come across, though. We'll have 3 Cassante games, but it's ISO that goes over for the Cassante here. So Port's going to have to pick something different, but he's going to immediately answer with the Olaf. Could flex that to the jungle, but that's a great matchup for Porsche, I feel.
Yeah, Porsche made his name on champions like this, surprisingly. If I remember a lot of series last year, there was one series, I don't remember who against it was, but there was one where we saw Porsche playing Olaf. 50 minutes in, he was the only reason he was keeping the University of St. Trevor roster at that moment. They were staying in that game, and he was a large portion of why they ended up winning that one, if I have my memory correct here. So now we get to see a little bit of a different look here. Remember that Olaf is going to be a flex, but a Callista coming in for Array, while Northwood seems like they're going to be opting for that Lucian Nami.
This is just fun that we're getting a much more aggressive early game-oriented bot game here because we've had a bunch of scaling options, right? It's been a lot of Aphelios. We had a Senna Aphelios matchup last time. Now you go for, well, we don't know the support here for Trevor yet, just really aggressive picks. So all the fireworks I'm watching for here in this game are going to be bot side with that Ashe, especially locked in alongside the Callista.
All right, this is our game to try to go for a lane swap, I think. This is the one that you want to try to go for. If you are Northwood, you avoid the bad matchup for Cassante. You avoid the bad matchup versus this bottom lane. We need to see it from them. If they can get this Olaf in a bad position, or UST potentially could even try to flex this Olaf and get something different. If the Scion is still up and available, there could be an instance where UST, I think, come out ahead for this trade.
It'll be fun. I mean, at this point, Northwood, you got to go aggressive and extreme, if you would call it, with how the series has gone. We have gotten through two games in record time. So, what can you do here to keep the series alive? We do see once again, though, Reppy's Talia is going to get taken away, and the Vi as well. So pitch in the pool of both Reppy and RBM here down the stretch for UST.
They're okay with them just playing Viego or any of the other bruisers that they want. I think would be a pretty tough ask to ask for both your mid and your jungle to be AP, but we did see it last game with the Gwen and Talia. So I'm interested to see what we get from Northwood here. As what are their bans? I think a lot of them should be focusing on mid lane. I wonder what that second ban. I don't know if they missed that or maybe that was just a production flub. Well, I'll make sure. So it was a missed ban. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So now UST here, they get Galio for themselves and still not showing what Porsche or Kenvi are really locking in here. I love this for UST.
Yep. Certainly big as well. I was curious if we're going to get a fourth champion for Robbie with what we've been able to watch, Alk, but that Galio, I mean, it's still up there. Well, it's not really up there, no. It's a Galio for Robbie Bob. What am I talking about? The Rek'Sai, though, you pointed out in the pre-show that was a big performing champion for RBM up against Ole Miss, and he's going to go towards it with Northwood's upper bracket hopes on the line.
Okay. UST, what is your option here? Going for the Jarvan this time so that Olaf is going to stay in topside. And again, if this is the lane swap game, playing for a Jarvan's advantage is not incredible. You could go for dives, but Jarvan really wants to try to get action early on into the game. So I wonder how much they're going to index into this. And again, if both teams opt for the lane swap here, we have to see how much both of these teams can get for their bottom lanes. If RBM on this Rek'Sai can actually do a ton, because both of these jungle champions are not ones that are known to get a ton of resources and really outplay. Rek'Sai can be very tanky and be very difficult to deal with if she starts to get gold.
Yeah, that's what RBM is going to look to do. Similarly, how he was able to do it against Ole Miss. So, big spot here for, obviously, all of Northwood, and it's important to mention that this is where Northwood's veterans really got to step up here, because we talked about it. Reppy's looked shaky up against Robbie Bob, and Thrall's had some good moments, but UST just, while they look so dominant, they just seem so calm, collected. Like you saw the end of the last two games. They're having fun while winning such a big stakes game as well.
Yeah. If they can do it, that'd be great. I just think what we've seen on tape is UST individually have been really dominant. I think that their players are kind of peaking at the right time here in the championship. And for Northwood, the members that are the newest ones are the ones that are unfortunately kind of crumbling in this instance. We're seeing a lot from specifically Reppy, who's getting outclassed by Robbie, kind of to be expected, especially when we talk about the veterancy and how long Robbie has been playing, the fact that he is a two-time champion here in the Collegiate Championship. And for Enthralled, he is playing well, but now he kind of has a lot more of the keys to play around. He does have a Lucian. It's not a Senna. It's not going to be something like a Varus or an Aphelios. You can outplay in this situation. There's no Vayne in this instance. It is going to be eyes on him to what he can do.
Yeah, it is not waiting for your items to come across. Make sure you're farming well. It is level 2 for Enthralled. He's putting the dukes up. He's going to swing for it. And like you talked about, we saw it on the Vayne. He was able to have some pretty good moments there, some pretty clutch condemns as well, as we are getting set to get into this game here. All I can think about, though, Alk, as we do hit to Summoner's Rift, is how this is like about to be Knock-Up City if St. Thomas can combine a Cataclysm with a Hero's Entrance and the Kalista ult, Fate's Call. They might fly off the screen, Northwood will.
Yeah, there's no, it seems like there's just no Yasuo. If only we got Yasuo from Robbie Bob, a champion that we got to see in a little bit during those CLOL files when he was paired up with Hayami. So, early invade, only to be expected. You have Olaf, you have Kalista Ashe. You should be looking to bully any person out of the enemy jungle. Make sure that they are not going to be able to do much here. That flag, I wonder if it also spots out Clyde. Looks like they want to try to take control of this entire topside jungle, which
they're really trying to find where the bot lane is, and they will spot Clyde out there, so now they know.
They know Izo's here as well, so they don't know where Lucian is, which is way more important.
Yeah, I'm seeing pings forward here from Enthralled, so he's just going to sit down here, catch the wave himself, and Northwood are going to index really into getting this Lucian ahead, has the first strike as well, but how much is it going to cost you on the other side with how St. Thomas have played these early games?
They're on Vision as well, so good job from Northwood to get a little bit of wards down. You see the pings as well, so they know that they're starting on the Wolf camp here. Okay, so they do also have a ward here available to them. should have seen it. They also have really good vision set up very early on. Thank you to our observer for doing a vision toggle there. Good to see them kind of do that. And when we're talking about... Oh, they actually lane swap back. I was wondering if they were going to stay up here because we saw Array and Trevor walk into that first side brush on top side. But instead they're actually going away from the jungle camps here.
And they're just looking to fight already. They get the slow.
Oh my
big
god!
Amount of spears in, and Enthralled has to burn the heal of Clyde to get out there. We talk about how unrelenting early Kalista and Ash can be. UST showing it.
This is not able to be played here. I think this is a situation where if you're Northwood, I really feel like you should have just gone for the lane swap, because this is how dominant this bot lane is going to be. This is why Ashe has been banned in almost every single series, and especially against UST. This has been a ban against them in the last 5 games. This is the one game that Northwood kind of give it up, and now they're going to try to play around it and see what they can do. RBM skipping a lot of his camps. He ended up doing his wolves. He went Raptors into Krugs to try to be here for on level 3. Try to be here for a potential crash. The Hawkshot, like you were saying, shows and reveals him. See if they can try to outplay this. They're still going to try and force for this. A big play for Northwood if they can get this off.
RBM slipped behind before that ward came on top, so Array immediately has to flash. The flash ball unburrow. They have Array pinned. Can they get Enthralled the kill? No, but it's still first blood for Northwood. And now they got Trevor on the wrong side. He's going to have to expend his flash. Burns the barrier already. Going to have to flash all back towards Kenvi, and he will. But now Kenvi's here, flagging, dragging forward. He wants some smoke, but he's caught by RBM with another great unburrow. And it doesn't look like St. Thomas can get much more back here. A couple fleeting autos from Trevor, and it's Northwood finally taking a firm grasp early.
A good find there from really big meme Peyton. Being able to find that kill is so important for them, especially for relieving pressure from the bottom side. Also getting double flashes there, something that they can revisit. And if Lucian Nami do find and engage, that's something that is... something that can be punished, those summoner spells being down. A good find for Northwood, and honestly, a little bit of glimmer of hope. Again, when we were talking about this bottom lane, Enthralled has been so impressive, and giving him some agency in a game, I think, is so important for Northwood.
It's the double-edged sword of that bottom lane, like you're talking about, though. Is you go those double marksmen to be unrelenting, but you are 2 squishy champions. So without Flash, you are in a ton of damage. Danger of damage, like you pointed out there, Alk. I was expecting us to get the lane swaps. We do have Reppy, on a different champion. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we already had a conversation about Galio into Azir from last series, no?
Yeah, vaguely. It's just like Galio can get, or Azir can get pushed, but it's really difficult for him to actually deal meaningful damage, especially early on versus Robbie. And without the ultimate, it is very, very clear for Robbie Bob that if he ever wants to go for short trades, he gets his W shield up, and you do the same trade that we saw in Game 1, where you just dash in, you get the Justice Punch, you do the Q, the Winds of War. Porsche, recognizing there's something here going on here top side, they are going to opt for the lane swap now. A little bit later, since they did get a recall in. This is what I was hoping for, because when you have First Strike on Lucian and you get to play these free matchups where you're playing into a lane swap, especially into Olaf, there is a moment where you can farm a lot of First Strike gold, and a lot of the value of First Strike is not necessarily being ahead on your first item or maybe your second item, but being able to be ahead on third item, being ready to just have that third or second item right before your opponent, especially right before potentially a very big objective, is going to be something that Northwood can look for when you do this lane swap.
Gonna be looking for one of those objectives. Gonna hop on this first Drake. Be able to pick that up pretty comfortably, it seems. We do see RBM coming up. They sent Trevor up topside to try and alleviate some of this pressure, because like you talked about, this lane swap makes it really rough for Porsche, being the Olaf that needs some resources in the early game, unlike this Cassante.
As long as you're okay with the Kalista just being able to solo farm, I think this is perfectly reasonable. Despite the fact that they are on a ward, if this maybe they were able to get this going, with an Ashe, I think Olaf has a lot more legs to stand on and potentially this 2v2 and finding a kill. If he gets ultimate, I have to be a little worried here for Enthralled and Clyde.
Especially if Trevor can get ultimate up too, right? Like, one arrow hits, you pop the Ragnarok, Porsche is just running down whatever 2 of the targets he is able to sink through. We do see the standard jungle trade coming across, at least for RBM now, is going to hit those grubs. Do see Kempy coming over, and Trevor is in the area.
Yeah, so RBM doesn't actually take these quick enough to do all 2. Maybe he gets 2 here, but like we were just talking about, Robbie Bob can collapse, Kenvi is here as well, Porsche can walk down with Ghost, we even have a Ray on his way.
Yeah, gets the second, gets out, and with the flag and drag down, they are going to give it over. So don't even grab all 3 here. Kenvi will at least make the stacking of those grubs a bit more difficult for the Timberwolves.
Envy, even invading, trying to just get some vision as to where RBM is. They have the timer on his blue buff thanks to them going for the Kenvi. No, you don't have flash.
Bubble from Clyde. Gets Kenvi locked up. He flag and drags back towards the opposing turret, and Thrall going to flash forward. Wants to guarantee this kill, and he will pick one up on that Lucian.
Okay. I mean, he gets the kill, which is nice. I just think the flash is really unnecessary. He's corralled. RBM is there to make sure if they don't get the kill. Maybe feeling a little anxious. It is game 3. It is that last game potential here for RBM. Or for Enthralled in the entirety of Northwood, so I understand some of the nerves there, but I think the flash a little unnecessary, especially when you are a champion. You do have a dash, but look at the enemy team, right? You're playing up against an Ashe, a Kalista, a Jarvan. All of these champions are going to be able to get on top of you. That flash is so important to have.
We'll be down for the next 4.5 minutes or so. We'll see if that's a bit of a lifeline for UST to go for, especially now that Array and Trevor soon will get their flashes back up, and more importantly, a lot of those setup ultimates like you already highlighted for UST soon to come alongside, not just Robbie Bob, Kenvi not too far behind it. Array's got that Fate's Call as well in the pocket.
So let's see where both of our supports are going to be able to grab their ultimate soon. Again, another lane swap playing for the Dragon that's going to be spawning in 2.5 minutes. So we'll see if Array can try to go for an early spike. He is going for the lethality build here, so going to be very strong on that one item. By the time this Dragon spawns, I do have to imagine that he will have his opportunity available to him. And so if he finds another kill, if he's able to just keep up with his farming where he has a small advantage over Enthralled right now, you're feeling really, really good. Now, Trevor, he can play this aggressive when he's playing Ashe, and they still have the Fate's Call.
That was another great bubble, though, from Clyde to force Trevor's flash down. So the Death Brush camp does get that summoner, which seems to be just off cooldown all the time for Trevor so far.
Man, sucks, but unfortunately, he doesn't have flash. He is still playing an amazing champion named Ashe. So it just doesn't, like, Ashe not having flash is cool. She will still have the same amount of usefulness in a team fight unless she is the first one focused. And if she's the first one focused, then St. Thomas have already won the team fight.
Kenvi just stole the red. Yep, that's rough for RBM. Flag and Drag will miss. They both have ult available. Robbie Bob first to the roam. RBM's getting a little bit cornered here. Can always tunnel over a wall. Both these teams just dance, and they're daring the other one to go in on the other one on each other.
Reppy's trying to get into the fight, and Robbie Bob's like, no, I am the shield of Durand. I am not letting you go through this run, bro. So getting some early turret plates as well. Really, really good, obviously, for this bot lane pair. And now, with a minute before the Drake, they should use this timer. If they can find a kill, it's nice, but you're really focused on getting this wave in so that they can recall, have an item advantage coming into the objective.
I'd be looking for more here. But like you mentioned, Kenvi kind of just toying with them. Especially with the lack of vision, trying to just hold them away from that turret. Get another wave in. And they're pushing
one more plate.
They're going to push for it, and they're going to get it.
And they get it. Okay, so now, if they can get their recall timing off, it's really, really strong. You already see from Northwood, they want to make sure that they're in position for this play. And as long as Porsche can actually try to cancel out Izo and make sure that he doesn't have an influence, he needs to be a little careful here. Both of these top laners having Ghost does make it so that if there's an all-out, Porsche does have some reason to be worried.
Teleport advantage to Izo, though, if they want to try and contest that Dragon. It does look like Array and Trevor have not reset because they want more plates to grab there. So they'll hop back on those. Man, they might even just push for this whole first turret. That's just such a huge gold injection, Hulk.
And Northwood now, instead of opting for playing around the Dragon and recognizing they're going to take this entire turret here, they go opt into topside matchup and they immediately deploy out onto these grubs. So looking to try to get 5 grubs for themselves, make sure that they can try to hit turrets early on. And they're trying to cancel now Porsche's recall here as well. Izo behind the flank was spotted on clearing those wards, but she's getting a lot of priority making sure that they can grab these grubs for themselves, instead of ignoring the Dragon. Kind of a weird focus that we've seen throughout this series is so much of the looks for both of these teams has been focused on getting Rift Herald, really ignoring the bottom lane.
Makes a ton of sense for me, at least with St. Thomas, because of how commanding the series has been. The grubs can really just take it away.
Nice smite.
There's the steal into the hero's entrance. Good, unstoppable, still gets knocked up, is Izo.
Robbie.
Top channel from Robbie, not going to find anybody, and Thrall able to dash back over the wall, dishes the Coling, the Cataclysm drop down.
Wait, Porsche, you can't get in!
Covered, but they can't get through to help out Kenvi. Somehow, once again escapes with 0 health, it gets executed. The Void Rush grabs it, RBM traded back, and it's jungler for jungler as we finally see these ults come alive.
Dude, I think that was probably the sloppiest team fight we've seen from St. Thomas this weekend. Like, Porsche's standing there, Ghost active, and he's like, let me in! I can't get in! Like, there's a huge bit of terrain in front of me. I can't get into this team fight. It's part of the reason we didn't actually see them get more kills for St. Thomas. And right there, Kenvi, so far this Jarvan, I think, may be indulging some of Kenvi's bad tendencies, where he is just going forward. He thinks that he's a lot more further ahead than he is. He's also going for a more supportive tank build here with the Knight's Vow Rush. So, not able to get all that much in terms of kills, but it is going to still be turret plates going over to the side of UST. They got that bottom lane, and now UST instead focusing on bottom side, getting that second dragon for themselves afterwards.
Here's a positive ult for just me and you. We can't get an Ocean Soul in this game. We've had enough of them.
Thank God.
This weekend. So
for context, if anybody was watching yesterday, in the Slew series was a 3-0, but every single one of them was an Ocean Soul. So statistically, we've already beaten the really, really small variation we could have got from our souls. But Cloud Soul, not really going to be super impactful. I don't think we're going to see too much from our two very tanky champions with very minimal damage at this moment.
Yeah, I wish this was a good Cloud Soul game, but it's good on like RBM and Porsche would like it, but outside of that,
it's good on Trevor. You know, you can press your ultimate. Probably also has approach velocity, so a lot of movement speed. Oh my
there's some
God!
Ultimates. The cleanse immediately answers the Ash Arrow. The Fate's Call defensively.
Big win.
Sure. Trevor, isn't close to getting killed. So those two ultimates down for UST for a bit at least.
I'll take that for taking the cleanse from Enthralled, because Ashe Ultimate has a ridiculously small cooldown. That and Ahri cooldown probably need to be looked at for their ultimates. So Ashe is going to have this a lot sooner, and that just means they can make more picks. They can look for Enthralled yet again, or they can try to find someone like Reppy coming into a team fight. It's what makes Ashe so dangerous when we get into setting up for objectives, because you already know you have vision, plus you have this. Now, making the play.
Trevor's flash is down again. All out, though, onto Array. He has to burn his flash as well. In the unstoppable form, Izo getting jumped on. He's really low. He doesn't have his resistances up. Pours with the teleport flank is just getting right on top of Clyde, and RBM is left hanging in the river. There's the St. Thomas team fighting we know and love.
They just made really good on that play. I mean, Reppy wasn't able to join from that fight. Robbie Bob just has him completely zoned. And Enthralled, I mean, you just don't have cleanse, right? So you can't lock up. It's so difficult to be able to deal with Ashe and Kalista. Izo overextending with his reach on Cassante. Now it turns into not only a teamfight victory, but it turns into UST getting themselves the Rift Herald. They can use this to try to bully down mid, or even just get this top tier one if they really wanted to. But 3 minutes before the Drake, they have a lot of time to think about where they want to use this.
They've got all the time in the world, especially with the items coming through. Well, it does look like we'll have everybody on about one item. So it's not as much of a discrepancy as I was thinking. But like you talked about, it's kind of a lull state in the mid-game with not much up. You could just get the wave shoved in here. Maybe look to utilize that Rift Herald to get more turrets down. Here's an Ash Arrow, though, so maybe we'll get some fights. Snipes onto the Nami. Clyde is very, very squishy. Does Kenvi have enough damage to get it done? He's actually eyeing going onto a throw, but RBM shows back up. Cataclysm Hero entrance combo. Good dodge on the Void Rush, but RBM goes under the turret into the middle of 3 St. Thomas members, and Robbie just zones off the bottom lane for Northwood. Clyde, we thought he'd be dead earlier, now finally falls to Robbie Bob, as those global ultimates are really coming online for St. Thomas.
Kenvi is just getting bailed out for some of these decisions, man. It just comes down to being able to play out with a Galio. Izo's going to finally be able to get away to use the Blast Cone to get out, but yeah, they're just opening up mid lane so that Array can get some of this gold for themselves. They're able to punish RBM and Clyde for some really good positioning. Again, another ultimate coming out from Trevor that is able to set up that play in the first place. It turns into damage onto this mid-tier 2. And now we've got the Avenger beams coming down. Let's see if they can get this flank off.
All right, yep. Who wants to be Captain America catching the hammer? Looks like Array is going to catch a big beating from Enthralled to start it off here. The Coling trying to knock him down. That's a big shutdown to find. The Fate's Call, though, will give a bit of a window for Trevor to get out, but he's getting hounded by Izo. Porsche is shown back up. Kenvi is over the wall, but Trevor is just dead. A double to Enthrall. They're going to jump him back over, and here comes Porsche. Ragnarok Pop trying to run on everyone down. His resistance are really low, and he just can't heal through the damage for Izo. Northwood finally getting an angle to a fight win for the first time in what feels like all series long. 4 wiped out from St. Thomas.
They all trickled in there. Northwood, really good punish. They're playing as a unit there. All of them on the same page, all of them running into the objective, into that fight, into that chokehold. And for St. Thomas, they just ran in one by one. Like Porsche's in the backline dealing damage, but Trevor's walking away. Kenvi is trying to find an angle, but he is on vision as well. Array's already dead. That was a moment where UST play a little too long, play a little too close to the chest. And Northwood, they're able to punish, so they get themselves back into this game a little bit, at least in terms of gold. And it's 30 seconds before the Drake, so a great timer for them to be able to find all those fights.
I like the aggressiveness from Northwood, especially onto Array and Trevor. It feels like they've been really tuned in on punishing the double marksman constantly. We already highlighted, right? These flashes for Array and Trevor have just been on cooldown constantly. They have been the target of a lot of harass from Northwood, and while, like you mentioned, they're still behind. Drake stacking on in their favor. There's a sizable gold chunk for this point in the game. It's looking a lot better. A little more confidence from Northwood, at least, with their backs against the wall.
Robbie Bob is getting a lot of solo gold here. So the difference between these two mid laners, at least in this game right now, Kenvi's dead.
Kenvi might be dead. The hero's entrance. Cataclysm combo
No
again.
way.
Good ensemble from Izo. They're under the turret. Kenvi's dead already. Robbie Bob locked in. The arrow 6 onto Reppy, who has turret aggro. All he can do is throw an Emperor's Divide as he falls. And now Robbie Bob's unleashed going forward, looking for the taunt, forces the flash out of Clyde.
Clyde's
Northwood
dead.
just getting a little too aggressive under the turret once more, and it's going to bite them in the back.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? That turret is not yours. Northwood trying to find Kenvi. Kenvi being the most beautiful piece of bait that St. Thomas could have asked for. And what I wanted to talk about before that is the fact that Robbie Bob on a side lane this game has been so much more impactful than what we've been able to get from Reppy. Reppy has been joining up. He's using a lot of gold, a lot of experience. So now Robbie Bob, level 13, 50 CS up on his opponent, and he's been getting so much traction on the side lane by pushing at the top ways, while Northwood, they've been fighting skirmishes, but to be honest, it's not them finding the fights first. It's UST engaging and Northwood punishing. We need to see a proactive Northwood if they're going to try to find a win in this series.
A proactive Northwood that doesn't dive under a mid lane turret. Well, maybe we won't get a dive under a mid lane turret here. There is a flank teleport coming across as Robbie Bob wants it. It's Kenvi once again that is the target of harass early. But like many of these fights, he slips out low HP, scot-free. Robbie Bob keeping them all at bay, so Kenvi goes untouched. And Northwood have to just walk out of their own jungle.
If I'm any person on Northwood, maybe specifically RBM, I'd be really pissed that Kenvi gets to get away with this stuff. Because, like, this is some illegal positioning. He's misplaying the flag and drags, at least in that instance. He got hit with a blind bubble from Clyde, and he doesn't die. Like, that is infuriating, because he's kind of just being in illegal positions. He shouldn't be there. He shouldn't be getting caught like this. He shouldn't be this low HP and getting out. But USC do the impossible. They're able to get him out. There's an Ashel to try to stop maybe Reppy's recall on this timer, but Northwood, they're not able to get anything. They're not able to push out some of these waves. They're not able to get much. We'll see what they can get on top side, but Porsche's already here. UST are matching them on the map, and Northwood kind of feel a little bit lost. They don't know where they want to start the play. They don't have someone who's kind of just going forward and starting it up for them.
Yeah, okay, I think that's a great point to make. It's just that Northwood now are just so packed in. We saw it at the end of that last real fight. They lost all 3 of their tier 2s in one fatal swoop. It does such detrimental things to your team because you can see the vision
RBM?
You see none of your own jungle, so now RBM, he's walking in stat check. Robbie Bobby fights Kenvi, and he nearly dies, is able to dash out of the Cataclysm, but look at how the Timberwolves, they just can't even step out of their own base right now.
Unfortunately for UST, RBM is playing a tankier version of Rek'Sai, so this champion just has like 3,000 HP, and she just gets to regen a ton. Level 11 here for RBM does mean that we'll have the second point in their ultimate. Could be something that is influential considering how many low HP targets we keep seeing from UST in a lot of these fights. And honestly, Slayer, it's looking less and less hopeful. UST, they have the dragon stacking in their back pocket 3.5 minutes before that. We've seen them team fight really, really well. I think this game is probably the sloppiest we have seen them, at least specifically in this weekend. So Northwood, if there's any time, especially in a game 3 in a decider, one that potentially sends you down to the lower bracket, in a game that is this close, you kind of got to lock in. And I say close. This game was 3,000 gold. You look at it now, it's 8,000 for St. Thomas.
It's those turrets, those tier 2 turret gold and more, the farm leads as well. And this is the problem, right? If they want to venture out of these lanes into the jungle, they virtually have to just 5-stack and walk in together because they have no idea what's waiting for them. You have the Tremor for RBM that's a little bit helpful, but you can see they have very little clue this Baron's even being started.
Okay. Small thing here for UST, when you are playing the lethality callistic, you lose some of that massive execute threshold because you are so focused on the lethality. You're able to get less spears. You're not doing the on-hit build, but looks like they're just doing that, right? They're talking about what we were going for. Porsche on a flank here. Ash ultimate.
Okay.
Good block coming out from Izo.
But now Porsche is running forward. He goes right through the tidal wave. He has his eyes on Enthralled, who is able to get back. They're chunking the front line low. Robbie Bob not able to get through that great set of Sand Soldiers from Reppy. Shut down onto Porsche. And now Northwood look like they want to come out and fight. They'll lose Clyde on the backside. But look at the taunt from Robbie Bob. He's just keeping all of the Timberwolves at bay, knocking them low and chasing them down. Enthralled cannot escape the might of Robbie Bob and University of St. Thomas. Ace again for one of the top teams in CLOL.
Fantastic turn off of the Baron. They used it as a pressure point, as a staging ground, saying, Northwood, you have to come meet us on our turf. You have to come meet us on this Baron. Turns into an insanely good fight. And Robbie Bob just showing up. I mean, he just makes Galio look like it takes a lot of skill. I'm sorry, Robbie Bob. I hope you don't take offense to this. Galio is one of those champions, very low skill ceiling. And as the Gen G Baron buff goes over to the Celts, St. Thomas are looking to make their mark. They're looking to try to go for that three-peat that we've been teasing all series long.
A three-peat that a lot of the community did not think would be even close to a reality.
No. It's actually insane, the fact that UST, a lot of people thought, okay, without Shogo, how far does this roster go? They're bringing in new pieces. Kenvi had been coming off of some pretty disappointing splits in the LCS. We were wondering what this team was going to look like, especially with Trevor as well, just recently being relegated on Supernova. But all of these pieces showing a lot of the veterancy. They find this pick on a Reppy, and that right there has to feel like the linchpin for UST with Baron buff in their back pocket. They're going to be on their way to top 6. They're going to continue on their ride in the upper bracket.
Here we go. They're doing it with style in the ultimates. Enthralled didn't even get to play the game. The Cataclysm, the taunts just too much. They're trying to hide under their own turret, but that turret is not your friend, RBM. Certainly isn't for Izo as well. It is an unkillable front line here as Trevor, Kenvi, and Robbie Bob are unmatched. And like you talked about, feels like the last push here of University of St. Thomas in this series.
Robbie Bob, he's going to teleport back in. They have plenty of turret damage. It's 5 seconds before Reppy is up and available. Kenvi's dead.
Yeah, RBM.
Okay, they can't end. I don't know if they can end now.
Yeah, they've got Reppy back up. Trevor's still hitting the turret. They'll get the Azir one up. There's the stream and shuffle back for Reppy. They do get Trevor, but leaves Reppy on an island, able to flash back over his own Sand Soldiers. Enthralled is back up as well. Reppy barely survives. And like you mentioned, just a little bit too short for the end there for St. Thomas.
Insane stuff. I love that we're getting them kind of playing a little bit loose still from the side of St. Thomas. But Northwood, are they going to try to make this play? I mean, I know I was kind of clowning on the fact that he is playing Galio, but Robbie Bob does a hell of a lot of damage right now.
I mean, he's got a full
Look at how much damage.
Again. Yeah, it's a fully stacked Medjai's, the ego build. He's gotten it in all 3 games of this series. 4 in a row if you're counting yesterday's finish against Slew.
He's been watching some night VODs for sure. He knows. He's tapped in on this Medjai's build. And like you're saying, he's just got a lot of AP. Good job from the side of St. Thomas. A 13,000 gold lead. You have to imagine we'll see how they close this one out. And I think that is the biggest question for UST is not if they're going to win this series, not if they were going to perform very well, but how do they close out games? Because we're starting to see glimpses of them kind of fooling around, but against tougher opponents, against a team that is like a Maryville, potentially like an Old Miss later on if they're able to win that series, which is still going on.
Yeah.
How are they going to look to close out some of these series as they catch out RBM and they're throwing out the ultimate? Is this going to be the prey arrow?
Oh my god.
Let's
Trevor
go!
Cancels the back. And here we go for St. Thomas. Reppy can teleport back in. Izo trying to frontline, but he's taunted once more by Robbie Bob. There's the front line of eviscerated once more, and now the rest of Northwood, they have to cower in their fountain, but there's nowhere to be safe. University of St. Thomas, they may have been doubted and discounted without Shogo, but they just got top 4 on the road to championship three-peat glory.
Incredible stuff from our Celts coming in. We had a lot of doubts. We had some questions, especially with the surge of Northwood coming into top 8. But hey, man, they put on a clinic right there. A lot of us did have 3-1. We thought Northwood were going to be able to take a game, but they just didn't seem like they were as coordinated coming into the day. So for Northwood, they still have another bout. They will be dropping down into the lower bracket. We'll see what they're able to do down there, because I think it's a team that, like we were saying at the beginning of the series, has been heavily discounted and doubted throughout their run here into the bracket. And I think with a double elim system, they still have some more to show.
Certainly will have some more to show in this new format. A lot to talk about with that bracket and such as we close out the show later on a bit here. But for now, we're going to take a quick intermission before talking too much about the end of the series, because we want some insight from the players. On the other side of this quick break, we'll get to hear from the support for University of St. Thomas, Trevor, that you won't want to miss. Wrapping up shop here with Salty Runback's continued coverage of now at top 6 of the CLOL Championship. I am joined by the victorious support for University of St. Thomas, Trevor, after another 3-0 sweep. Just right off the bat here, Trevor, how we feeling? How are the vibes after such a successful weekend?
Thanks for having me, first off. The vibes are good. Honestly, this wasn't the team we expected to play in this next round, but I don't know. They put up a decent fight, and I think our team's happy with our performance and how we've been communicating and improving, because we didn't get to scrim much early on as well as the other teams got to. So now we're just catching up and we're getting into our form, so it feels pretty good.
Yeah, well, the form looks pretty deadly. I do want to talk about, obviously, this series was pretty one-sided. SLU, you get the 3-0 sweep, but for you especially, I feel like we got to see, a lot of different shades of your support pool here. Against SLU, it was just a straight engage games. You're playing Rel and Nahlis. Now we get to see that Ash in that game 3. Have you guys been able, you talked about scrimming more, able to express more compositional strategies, especially coming through for you this weekend?
Yeah, we've definitely tried a bunch of different stuff. The big thing right now is lane swaps with everybody. So we focus mostly on lane swaps to prepare for SLU, because their best player is their top laner. So after that, we just played a couple standard games. We only scrimmed like maybe 2 times this past week, I think. 2, 3 times maybe. But we have a good in-house team we've been scrimming versus. They've been helping us a lot on directly what we're planning on drafting in our games. So yeah, we've played variety of comps, but I'd say it's mostly the same style, just like front to back, tank on top, hyper carry on either AD or mid, and just play team fights.
Well, you guys have been playing basically every aspect of the game pretty well so far here. But Trevor, I do want to pick your brain here a bit because it's been a pretty eventful, I guess I'll say, spring going into summer for you now. Obviously, you're now sitting in a great spot with University of St. Thomas. We're able to qualify on the other side for NACL with CCG. How's it been going from, focusing so much on those qualifiers to jumping back in with St. Thomas like you were talking about, getting some more scrims in?
Yeah, so both of our AD and jungle were playing on NACL as well, so they were busy, and we really weren't scrimming much. Scrimming with CCG was fun, and that was a good experience playing in OQs and stuff like that. I think that level of competition is probably roughly around the same as CLOL, at least at the top end. And then NACL is probably a step up for sure for Array and Ken. But I mean, scrims were relatively the same for both teams. I think all those players are really easy to work with and super talented. So it was like a seamless change to go from one to the other.
That's good to hear. It especially helps when you're doing a lot of winning, which has been going well for you in the recency with both of those aspects. Trevor, though, I do want to ask you, obviously, University of St. Thomas, right? Something we've been harping on, the potential goal here for what you guys could accomplish if you're able to win this championship. Nobody's had a three-peat, and you'd be the only team to grab 3 CLOL titles. We heard from Robbie Bob and a little bit from Array yesterday that it's really just about winning, but the vibes as a team are just so good. How much do you feel like focusing on what's at stake here versus just maybe playing with a team and having fun?
Um, yeah, we're just having fun. Honestly, I enjoy the process. I don't think anyone's feeling a bunch of pressure to like three-peat or anything like that. Obviously, it'd be amazing for Porsche and Robbie. I think those are like some of the best college players of all time, with what they've done and how they always perform in the playoffs. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on that.
Well,
Not too much.
it's
Not too much pressure. We're chilling.
yeah, that's good to hear, right? And that you're having fun. That's it's a big important part. But Trevor, looking forward here. You got some time off here to get a little bit more prep in. But what are you thinking about your next matchup coming next weekend here with with the team you're going up against?
Yeah, obviously Maryville's like super good. They play second in NACL. All their players are super talented, like top to bottom. And I don't know. It should be a good series. Hopefully, we can come in our A game and give a good show for everybody.
Well,
And I got nothing respect for everybody on their team and stuff like that. So it should be fun.
all right, yeah, I like this St. Thomas approach. We've had a lot of trash talk being thrown around by some other teams involved, but I like the approach here. You guys giving the respect and excited for the game. That'll be a fun one to watch. Well, Trevor, I appreciate you popping on here to talk, and I know you said you haven't done a ton of interviews, so I'm giving you the last word, my friend. Anybody you want to shout out? Any thank yous you got to give before we get you on out of here?
Yeah, I'd just like to shout out my team. Our director Nova helps out a lot. Our coach Dardock, obviously all the players. My family has been supporting me recently, and my girlfriend.
Love to hear it. Love to hear you got a big supporting crew behind you guys at St. Thomas. Excited to see, like you mentioned, what that Maryville matchup looks like next week. But Trevor, we'll say goodbye to Trevor here. Appreciate you. You are all set, my friend. And we'll bring Alk back in here. Alk, as we close things out here. What a weekend for UST. And like Trevor kind of mentioned at the end of that, I mean, we got some pretty fun matchups coming next weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if we could just really quickly just go straight to the bracket.
Yeah,
I know we have another series going up at the same time. If you don't already have the multi-twitch up, Running the Rift is currently running the Ole Miss versus SLU series. But we're seeing now MU versus UST. We're getting this matchup of already qualifying them potentially for grand finals. One of these teams will be locked in next week to go to Boise, Idaho, which is going to be a lot of fun there. And already that lower bracket is looking crazy. Ole Miss now up two games in that series. And now we have Northwood versus Fisher College. I'm interested to see what that matchup looks like. I think that's also going to be a matchup where can be a bit sloppy. I'm looking to see kind of where Fisher is going to land, especially with all the different mid substitutes coming in with Saranock, graduating very recently. Actually graduated on Sunday, so really excited for him. But I think the rest of the team is definitely going to be looking towards that. And the winner of the SLU matchup, SLU Ole Miss, going up against Winthrop, big money right there.
Yeah, I mean, that is Whew, it's always fun. I've enjoyed our time on the upper bracket side. There's something just different about those elimination games. They got a little bit of extra zest to them, if one will. I can't confirm to everybody. Hopefully, if you better have the multi-Twitch up now. If you don't, obviously we'll be closing out here soon on Salty Runback, so we'll be able to throw it over there. But that game 3 is looking pretty darn tight. I actually can see right now the gold is even and the kills are even in that game.
Yeah, well, we can let them watch that one. Let's finish up our show.
Yep.
We still got the rest of our show to talk about here. And I mean, that's the bracket. We can take a look at our upcoming schedule. Again, those games, this is next week. So winner of Old Miss versus SLU up against Winthrop. We talked about the Fisher and Northwood series. And then on Sunday, upper bracket, Maryville versus UST. There's not going to be a second stream this time around. All of the games will be on Salty Runback Pod. So make sure that you're staying tuned, you're locked in, you've got the follow. If you want to hit the sub button, that's really cool. But I'm not gonna hold you on that one. Instead of donate, if you're gonna donate and you're gonna sub, just go to the donation link.
Yeah, let's throw that one out there so we can get one more big thank you to all of the people that have been able to donate. There's the link if you'd like to contribute. Big shout outs as well, obviously, are going to go over to Genji, blanking on them with their Baron buff, I don't know why, and then Old Miss for their big support. But if you do decide to donate, and you donate above $100, you could be a part of this coveted list that we have here. I'm going to try. I'm going to read it out again.
You got this, bro.
So
you got
let's
this.
see how this goes. So we'll shout out one more time. Raz, Garrett Meyerson, Benton Patterson, James Vanden B, Gregory Adler, Polestar of the organization, Sandor Howe, Sean Shannon, Daniel Clerk, Powell Wiseman, Emmanuel Sanchez. Let me make sure I don't get Colomer, so I didn't mess it up this time. Yeah, I got it. Let's go. Gordo, Yanni, myself, Slayer here, Shibby, Angie Fan, Quacks, Beatdown, Timothy Boy, Ian Ford, Kyle Upgamer, RMC, Aaron Lee, Alan Ignacio, Peter Erickson, Andrew Franklin, Tiffany Tran, Beverly Rospico, and Josh Sides. Shout out to all you guys for contributing over $100, and everybody else has donated great money. Hey, see this banner up top?
The ticker. You get to be on the ticker, dog. You gotta have your name go across. And if you want to be anonymous, you can also donate. There are a couple of anonymous donators that did donate above $100. Thank you again to everybody who's donated, whether it was $5 or just or more than $100. We are really, really thankful for that, and this broadcast would not be available or possible without your support.
And it wouldn't be possible without our amazing production crew, so we're going to shout them out as well before we close everything out here to our technical director, Cam, OBS as well. We got our observers, we got producers. I mean, it's just such a great team to be a part of here, all.
Exactly, and it's a lot of people who have been around the space, who have really contributed both to the collegiate land space as well as amateur as a whole when we talk about Tier 2 and Tier 3. So it's a lot of love and passion going into this project, and it's been a really fun time so far, and it's only going to get more fun as we get closer and closer to the grand finals.
I certainly have had a ton of fun alongside you all, especially this last weekend has been some of the best casting that I personally have been able to be a part of. But luckily, this is not the end of the road here. I'm sure we're going to throw up a raid to go over to Running the Rift to check out how the lower bracket shakes out. But like you heard Alk say earlier, next weekend it's all on this Twitch channel as we cruise closer and closer to Boise, Idaho, and Top 2. For now, though, it's myself and Alk Battery signing off. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we better see you back here next weekend for more high-stakes CLOL Championship League of Legends.